I would like to call this meeting of the Lammersville Unified Board of Education to order at 7 o'clock. This is the regular meeting of September 2nd. And I'm having problems with my computer for some reason. You'll all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of
the
the
United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini,
Here.
Ann Benia,
Here.
Colin Clements,
Here.
Sharon Lampel,
Here.
David Pombo,
Here.
Sunita Jithendra.
Absent.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda.
There are none.
Move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
The first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Committee reports. District Advisory Committee, Trustee Lampel.
Nothing to report.
District English Language Advisory Committee, Trustee Bonilla.
The District English Language Committee met last week on the 27th, and we reviewed some of the highlights of what the District English Language Committee is designed for. There were a few parents in attendance with their children, and Mrs. Buzatil did a fantastic job educating the parents on the role of the English Language Committee and the English Language Learner Program in our district. And that's all.
Thank you. I have nothing to report on the Education Committee. Facilities Committee, Trustee Clements.
Sharon, were you taking this one?
We have nothing to report. I think our meeting is the end of September.
Okay. I thought you were going to make a comment. Sorry about that.
Yes. So I think we all received an email about public use of the tennis courts. And in light of the fact that people are practically desperate for things to do during shelter in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Trustee Clements and I wanted to know if the board wanted to consider some sort of streamlining of approval of the public to use the tennis courts during certain times, or we have a policy and a procedure and just leave it as is. We've been contacted by one community member, and there was a long email that he sent me today. Unfortunately, I was not home and didn't have a chance to really read what he put in there. But Trustee Clements and I wanted some feedback from the board. Do you think we should come up with some kind of streamlined process to discuss opening the tennis courts to the public at certain times when it could be monitored, like when a custodian was on duty or something like that? So we wanted to put it out there for thoughts if we wanted to have it on a future board meeting, or to just go ahead and open up the tennis courts and see how that works for a little while. Anything that I left out, Trustee Clements?
Just to clarify, I think the ask is not that we do something necessarily today, but that we have a consensus that rather than going to the facilities committee in a month and a half and then to the board, that we have a consensus that we can discuss that as a board in the next board meeting, is I think where we're going with that.
That I think we can do. I was going to ask Superintendent if we could even discuss it per Brown Act, but I think we can discuss putting it on a future agenda.
That's
Yes,
the ask.
Trustee Balzerini.
I just want to ask a question. As ridiculous as it sounds, I thought the current rule is tennis was not allowed under the county COVID-19 rules.
Well, I just started working on this yesterday, and I was going to ask Superintendent Nicholas to contact the county health department to find out where they stand on tennis. I did not have a chance to do that research.
I understand.
So yeah, that's a question mark, definitely.
I just got back from vacation and ping pong wasn't allowed because
Wow.
you touch the ball. The ball has to be disinfected in between each user. It sounds ridiculous, but that's
No, I get it.
That's where we're
I
at.
get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe there are rules about that. I'm not sure what our county is doing about that, but I know there's talk on a state level of the balls that are used in common have to be washed and or disinfected between uses and so on and so forth. So I agree, we should ask staff to look into whether or not it's even allowed per the county, because I don't think we should open any facilities up that are currently not allowed by the county for public use.
I've dabbled in tennis a little bit, and I can't imagine playing with soggy tennis balls all the time.
Wow.
So would we be in agreement to direct staff to check with county health department and say, is tennis on a safe list? If it's not, then there's no reason to go further with any discussion on this.
That sounds good. I like that idea.
Or we can go further with the discussion pending the county opening it up, so that we are so that we have something in place when and if the county, if it is now on the do not do list, we have something in place so that when it does open up, we can put it in place and move forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I did communicate with Superintendent Nicholas a little bit about this yesterday. And of course, the major concern is, will the tennis courts be abused as we had experienced when we had the football field wide open, and to have bicycles come on and ruin the net and things like that. So of course that is a concern.
I think we have consensus to bring it, to have staff look into it, and also to bring it forward as an item on our next agenda. Is that correct?
I am in favor of that, sir.
Yeah.
So info discussion, September 16 on the tennis court usage. And let's find out what the COVID rules are for tennis in San Joaquin County, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Policy Committee, Trustee Bonilla. You're on mute.
And unmute. Yes, Policy Committee just finished reviewing a large packet of policies, and they should be coming forward to the board soon.
Thank you. Safety Committee, Trustee Balzerini.
Nothing to report.
I will just chime in on the Safety Committee. We have a meeting September 16th at 3:30. Wellness Committee, that's mine. The next committee meeting is October 21st at 3:30. That concludes the committee reports. Moving on to governing board reports. Trustee Bonilla.
I was very honored to attend the graduation at Mountain House High School on August 21st. It was very nice. The students were all decked out, and I loved that some of the families brought signs and really made it a true celebration. And also very grateful for the photographers, Jin Suk Photography, that was there to take photos of both the graduates and their families, so that it was a really special occasion. On the 27th of August, I attended the DLAC committee meeting with Trustee Clements, and Mrs. Buzatil presented a very nice presentation to the families that attended. And I just finished reviewing a bunch of policies for a policy committee, and that is my report.
Thank you. Trustee Lampel.
I also attended the socially distant graduation, for lack of a better term, and I think Trustee Bonilla described it perfectly. The families got so excited, and I'm so glad that the time and energy was put into giving our students some form of a graduation. They really seemed to appreciate it. It was a special time for them. And we actually had fun attending it. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I am visiting Cordis Elementary, and I want to take a tour of the school, and I hope to be able to observe some teachers in action on the teacher end of the socially distant, the virtual learning. So looking forward to that tomorrow. And that's my report.
Thank you. Trustee Balzerini.
Lots going on with CSBA. We're having Zoom conferences on a regular basis with board members from all over my region, talking about what districts are doing, what districts need, and how the legislature can support that. Working on Hold Harmless with our district. That's still an issue. And I don't have anything new to report for Superintendent Nicholas, but hopefully I'll have more next couple of days.
Thank you. Trustee Clements.
As Trustee Bonilla and Trustee Lampel mentioned, it was my honor to attend the graduation ceremony. Several parents actually said thank you to us and to district staff, and I think I speak on behalf of the entire board when I say no, thank you. Thank you to the parents and to the seniors for their patience and what they've, we feel for them, and this was the least we could do. It was an honor for all of us, and I want to thank Trustee Balzerini for all that he's doing. As a firefighter, I know he would have been there if he could have been, but he was unable to.
Thank you. And as my fellow board members mentioned, we attended the graduation at the high school. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good thing. I will be honest, I hope we never have to have another graduation like that ever again. But I think it was good for the parents, good for the students, good for everyone, or at least as good as could be had in these current times. I would also like to once again thank everyone, my fellow board members, district staff, teachers and site staff, parents and students for working through the distance learning. I know it has its challenges, but I know everyone is doing all they can to make it as successful as possible, and I just want to thank everyone for that. And that concludes my report. Moving on to item 6, receiving of public comments. Due to the COVID-19 restrictions, in-person public comments are not possible at this time. Persons wishing to make public comments may use the virtual speaker card that is linked to the agenda of each meeting, and your comments will be read during public comments or at the appropriate time during the agenda. Superintendent, are there any public comments at this time?
Yes, there's one. The public comment is from Ragu Malapaka, and it says as follows: I am a resident of Mountain House for the past 4.5 years and feel blessed to be part of such a close-knit community. I am also a tennis enthusiast. Tennis is a great sport for mental and physical fitness and also a way to make new friends. I see people of all ages and skill levels wanting to play in the 3 courts we have at Central Park. As outdoor tennis has been deemed a relatively safe sport to play during the pandemic, we are seeing a lot more people at the courts. This demand is making people wait for more than 2 hours to get their turn to play while maintaining social distancing. Some days we don't even get a chance to play. This is because we have just 3 courts for more than 20,000 people. I request you to please make the 6 courts at Mountain House High School freely accessible to the public while not being used by the high school students. This will tremendously benefit the Mountain House residents. I hope you will discuss this topic on your agenda for the September 2nd LUSD board meeting. And that's it.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, consent items for consideration. Governing board meeting minutes from special meeting July 13, regular meeting August 19, ratification of June 2020 final budget revision and July 2020 budget revisions, contracts under 50,000, ratification of 2020, 2021 new hires, ratification of resignations, and updated 2020, 2021 fundraisers. Are there any items on the list of consent items that any of the board members would like to remove for further discussion?
I'll move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Consent items are approved. And Trustee Lampel, would you like to do the honors?
Absolutely. So we would like to welcome the following new employees. LaDonna Aldrich Means, self-contained classroom teacher. Tiffany Compton, K-8 elementary office supervisor. Kelly DeLong, special education teacher. Laura Machado, social studies teacher. Deepak Mehra, physical education teacher. Tika Mejia, English teacher. Daniel Miramontes, physical education teacher. Ali Panero, self-contained classroom teacher. Paola Renshaw, cafeteria computer technician. Chelsea Salins, district receptionist, administrative secretary. Diana Whitney, English teacher. And Christine Ziller, K-8 elementary office supervisor. Welcome to our Lammersville family.
Welcome. And thank you, Trustee Lampel.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item 8, district administrative reports. Superintendent's report. Dr. Nicholas?
Yeah, I just have a brief update on Hold Harmless and then a short presentation on the brand new guidelines. I don't know if that's guidelines number 17.2. There's been quite a bit of information coming out, but last week the governor announced a simpler, focused on opening businesses guidelines, which will impact what we do. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about Hold Harmless. When the budget language first came out, I used the term oxymoron to have a hold harmless provision in SB Senate Bill 98 that protects declining enrollment and flat enrollment districts and does not protect and actually hurts growing districts. In a nutshell, for individuals in the community that are unaware, the language subsidizes flat growth and declining enrollment districts with money for kids that don't exist while not funding growing districts with students who do exist. Our district, multiple organizations, and across the state, 15% of the school districts in the state of California are growing, all put in their effort to try to get the language changed. So I wanted to acknowledge a few folks. So I have here a letter that was written by 14 state legislators, including Susan Eggman, who represents our region. And I wanted to, it's a brief letter, but I think it puts into a nutshell what the issue was. And this was written to Governor Newsom, Senate President Pro Tem Atkins, and Assembly Speaker Rendon. So it says, Dear Governor, President Pro Tem, Speaker, on behalf of many growing school districts that we represent, our students, parents, teachers, and other staff and communities, we are respectfully requesting the reversal of recent action in the state budget that eliminated critical funding for growth districts. This is this time of extraordinary fiscal pressures for all districts. In the recent budget process, we endorsed the extra support given to declining enrollment districts because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we do not believe this support should come at the expense of California's long-standing commitment to provide funding for the new students entering our school districts. Indeed, this practice dates back almost a half century to the renowned Serrano decision that entirely remade California's school finance system under an equity lens. It is incumbent on us to provide equitable funding for new students. For these new students, bring added responsibilities and expenses for additional teachers, classrooms, support staff, counselors, nurses, librarians, books, computers, lab equipment, and more. As the Public Policy Institute of California states in its July 14th report on this issue, quote, the hold harmless provision, however, creates winners and losers among districts. Growing districts will lose funding per student, while districts with declining enrollment will gain funding per student. Moreover, districts with more high-need students will get more funding under LCFF local control funding formula, meaning that gains or losses will be even larger in high-need districts, end quote. The Public Policy Institute of California concludes, amidst the uncertainty and fiscal pressure of the current crisis, policymakers should consider funding options that do not create winners and losers, exacerbating what have already been significant disruptions. In his June 29th signing message to Senate Bill 98, the budget trailer bill that eliminated growth funding for the 2020-21, Governor Newsom pledged to work with the legislature to, quote, pursue targeted solutions, quote, for, quote, schools that had planned expansions, quote. We respectfully request you put this pledge into action by adjusting the policy enacted in SB 98, Senate Bill 98, in order to account for the growth. This will ensure that growing school districts are adequately funded in order to support California students amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, this document letter was signed and sent forward. So again, we want to thank Assemblywoman Eggman and her staff, including David Stammer-Johann, who was her chief of staff, who worked directly with me. I want to thank CSBA and Trustee Balzerini, who got us in the room, in multiple rooms, to put some pressure and leverage through his role as a board of directors with CSBA. County Superintendent of Schools, Jamie Musalamis, and his organization, SECESA, the SJCOE Finance Department, who put pressure on the California Department of Finance, and AXA. So here's the update. That's the context. The update is there was a cleanup bill called Senate Bill 820. So I'm going to use the word oxymoronic here because there's more moronicness to this part of the cleanup bill language than anything that we would have expected. So in a news article that came out from EdSource, where they discussed the impact of the trailer bill cleanup language, charter schools and growth districts were greatly affected. And so here's just a couple of excerpts that I think, again, show how Senate Bill 820 did improve situations, but did not meet the mark. So it says here, advisors of Governor Gavin Newsom and the Department of Finance devised the solution, which Assemblyperson from Sacramento called a fair compromise in an earlier hearing. The state will fund school districts and charter schools for additional enrollment if they can document their growth plans in a financial report filed last spring or in the budget they approved for the 2020-21 school year. So in essence, it works as an alternative for growth districts and charter schools can submit enrollment figures as of October 1 and use that for calculating funding. But the funding will be based on, and I quote, the lowest of the two options, which is why districts and charter schools say they will not be made whole. And then it gives an example. Irvine Unified, which has 36,000 students, and it says, Irvine Unified has budgeted more than 300 students for this year, a growth of about 1%, bringing in an additional $3 million that the district can now count as the result of this new trailer bill legislation. But if actual enrollment exceeds budget enrollment, then the districts will have to absorb these costs with no additional revenue. So a district, Irvine, with 36,000 students is projecting growth of 300 students is going to lose $3 million. So when I give you our numbers, our losses far exceed the percentage of loss that Irvine is going to have to eat if their growth exceeds the projection. So we currently have a student population of approximately 6,420 students. SB Senate Bill 98 froze on the hold harmless language in the original budget on the budget at February 2020, when our ADA, our enrollment was 6,039 students. So that was the original shock to the system. The effort and the fight and the lobbying led to Senate Bill 820, the trailer bill cleanup language, which allowed us to increase our funding claim to 6,179 students based on the adopted budget that we adopted at the end of June. So the good news for the district is the original shock to our system in the shift from Senate Bill 98 to Senate Bill 820 added a little over $1.1 million that we can spend on our students and our facilities and our curriculum. And that's good news for us. So there was improvement with the trailer bill. However, here's the bad news is our actual enrollment as of when I put this together was 6,417, not 6,179. There's a discrepancy of 238 students that will be unfunded based on Senate Bill 820's failure to meet the equity needs established in the Serrano case in 1973 and long running through the implementation of local control funding formula and the base grant, which is supposed to promise money for every student at an equitable rate. So we're looking at a loss of funding that should have come in at approximately $2.1 million and growing because we continue to grow throughout the school year. So this is very disappointing news. It's going to put a stress on our district in that things that we normally can expand and things that we normally can do, or staff that we may have considered to hire, or a program we would have considered to buy, will not be done this year unless this is rectified. So I would like to recommend to the board that we take advantage of Trustee Balzerini's position as a board of director member for CSBA and have him contact their lead gentleman, Mr. Myers, and get some support from the Education Legal Alliance and recommend filing suit in the name of equity and the lack of equity in funding that was promised in LCFF through that organization. And then the other thing I would say is if CSBA, and that would also probably include the other 15% of school districts in California that are growing. But I would also put out for food for thought that if CSBA would not move forward with that, I would recommend that we consult counsel and consider suing the state ourselves. This is an egregious failure on the state's part, and the audacity to call this a compromise, giving us the lowest of two options. Irvine at 36,000 students with the large supplemental and concentration grant monies along with federal monies can absorb a $3 million blow. A district our size at 6,400 kids taking a $2 million blow, it's catastrophic. And it's frankly runs in the face of all the things that have been promised by the folks in Sacramento that support education. So that's the end of this part of Hold Harmless of my presentation, but I just wanted to put that information out there.
Just a point of clarification, see if I understand all that you just said. In a nutshell, what you said is we have to educate all the students that come our way, come into our district, but the state is telling us one number we hit months ago. Once you hit this number, we're not going to give you any more money for any more students that are added through this fiscal year. Is that correct?
That is correct. The original freeze, then the compromise increase to a freeze, but it does not reflect in any way, shape, or form our reality and our growth.
I have a clarifying question because the verbiage talks about that, essentially they're going to make districts whole, but only to the extent the growth was in the budget. However, when a district, and this is for the public, when a district files their budget at any given point in time, they can't assume an ADA increase over time. Like, oh, we're going to have another 100 students in August and September and October and November. We are required to put in, quote unquote, the budget what we see real numbers at that point in time. Is that correct?
That is correct. There are projections based on assumptions. Those projections have to be conservative by the nature of budgeting, because if you over project, then you often run into running into the red because you got your numbers wrong. So
Right.
it was intentionally set up to short growing districts.
And that's the way the system works, is you can't overestimate, right? You have to have a conservative estimate of growth. And so it's not that the budget was wrong. That's the way it is supposed to be done in education in California.
Correct. So ultimately, you can make the argument that this violates the intention of the Serrano case, which is kind of the linchpin of all attempts to create equity and funding for, at least at a base level, all students.
And have other lawsuits around the state been filed on this? I thought I read that there were.
Well, there's the charter school folks are pretty fired up as well. In particular, the online charter school folks who are probably picking up, are getting kids from public school districts to go to their online programs. So I don't know if this is caught up in that. All I can say is we're not a charter school or a charter school district. We're a public school district, and we're not being funded appropriately. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And then I have a Trustee Balzerini.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll contact Keith Bray. He's the general counsel in charge of the Education and Legal Alliance, and Dennis Myers. I'll see if we can get a Zoom meeting set up tomorrow, early next week. And
Perfect.
hash this out. And my recommendation to the board would be that if ELA is not going to cooperate, we should drop our membership immediately.
Yeah, if we're not getting any benefit out of a membership, I see no reason to continue with it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Go ahead,
secondly, I have a short PowerPoint. I was asked to bring forward an update on the guidelines, the old guidelines that were replaced on Friday. So as we kind of keep being flexible and adaptable in this current environment, I'm going to try to explain a 30,000-foot view of the new guidelines, which are simpler to understand. But I will say that in spite of my best studies, I'm not an expert on this because it's very complicated in the details. So we're going to pull that up here real quick. And this was delivered to me on Thursday afternoon. No, I'm sorry. It was yesterday afternoon by county public health official Dr. Maggie Park. So I want to thank her for these slides that were used here. So I can. Yeah. Can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the focus on the new guidelines is about the economy, and it's called the Blueprint for a Safer Economy. So they wanted to have a uniform state framework. They wanted it to be conservative, slow, and prudent. And they wanted to be able to go tighter or looser based on numbers by county. They have gotten rid of the county monitoring list, which was the basis for making decisions for opening school districts across the state. So that's been replaced. They got rid of the county having to attest to the process, in a process for opening. I think public health officials have been targeted on all sides for about 6 months now, and they got rid of that. The old system, the monitoring list system, had 5 checks that you had to meet. The new one has 2, which is case rate and test positivity, and it's a 4-tier system based on colors. So this is what it looks like. Most of the state is purple, and it's based on a simplification and a daily look at the numbers as opposed to a 14-day composite. This is the same look, but a more professional-looking slide. But here's how it goes. The game starts for moving tiers August 28th. They're going to reassess each Tuesday, and the first real assessment is September 8th. So on August 28th, all counties were given a color, and on September 8th, some may change color, some may not. In order to to move, you have to meet these two criteria on case rate and test positivity. And so if you have one that's good and one that's bad, you get the bad one. In essence, to move tiers, you have to be there 21 days. So you have to earn your way onto a color, and then you have to have 14 consecutive days in that color to kind of lock it. And that 2 weeks is monitored. Again, like I said, every Tuesday you get a new announcement, and you can only advance one tier at a time. So this is what California looked like with the new color scheme. As you notice, most of it is purple. A couple of rural districts are in the yellow, and then a couple of reds. So most of the state is in purple, and San Joaquin County is definitely purple. So how does this impact schools? So the old system to consider opening schools, so in our case, it would be going back to a hybrid system for those who chose. We would have to be off the county monitoring list and meet all 5 criteria for 14 consecutive days. That system's out. Starting on August 28th, and really for sure with the new metrics coming out next Tuesday, the 8th, schools have to be off the county. You have to move into the right tier for 14 days. So you have 14 days to earn out of purple to red, and then you have to be in red for 14 days to lock that in. So it's really a 28-day process to lock into a new tier. And then another piece that's important to this is that in the old system and in the new system, there is an ability to apply for a waiver with county public health for TK through 6th grade students. But in order for that metric to work, in the old system, you had to have 7 consecutive days off the monitoring list, which San Joaquin County never got off the monitoring list. And in the new system, you have to have 200 cases per 100,000 for 14 days in the case rate. And on the test positivity, you have to have 14% per 100,000 daily. So again, I'm no expert on this. This is just came out. I just got this information yesterday, but it's important to know that there's a new way for our district to consider moving to hybrid. It also is more stringent and will make it more difficult. San Joaquin County's numbers are getting significantly better, but we still haven't even gotten off the county monitoring list one day yet, but we have had many days where we are close. So that's for your information. As the information gets made more clear, we'll bring back more information to the board and for the community to consider. And that is my presentation.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that? There was something about, I don't know which slide it was in, that you have to, there it is. You have to stay in the tier for 21 days. So we are in the widespread tier.
Correct.
And we have to stay there now for 21 days. So there's no possibility of any change until October, basically.
Yeah. So the way it was explained to me is that people, because it's the first swing, some counties will move on September 8th. A very small number will go from purple to red. But I do believe the answer to your question is yes, moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
if you did move from purple to red, you would have to stay in red for at least 21 days before you can move to orange. Is that correct?
That is correct. And 2 successive weeks have to be in the orange numbers.
Okay.
And again, it's really confusing. I just wanted to give a 30,000-foot view, but I think the attempt is to not have reopenings too quickly, as that ended up being a big challenge across California with large numbers of case spreading.
Around the
Well,
world.
Thank you for
Yes.
explaining it, because you're like, it's clear as mud, and it does sound a little bit like a game, but your explanation was very helpful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, question or
Yeah.
a statement? I guess it's a statement. You know, a couple of board members have already said to parents and families, thanking them for their patience. I'm I'm on these calls all week long with CSBA and board members, and this state is screwed up. Just a few months ago, we were being mandated to go back to school unless we had a waiver. That was in July. And now they've done a complete 180. They don't know the numbers on the tests. They really don't know how many are positive. The calculations on deaths that are COVID related are inaccurate at best. This is screwed up, and it varies so much from county to county. I'm frustrated. I know parents are frustrated, and I'm at the point now where I'm very, very concerned what this is doing to especially younger kids, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. This is their academic future relies on what they gain right now. So we got to figure out a way to advocate to get back in the classroom. If they figured out in grocery stores, we should be able to figure it out in the classroom. I mean, we got to figure this out. We got to get back to school. I'm frustrated. I know all of you are too. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but boy, I have no faith in our state legislature at all.
And it's not only damaging to our students' educational future, it's damaging to their social emotional future as well. It's not, being stuck at home is not good for any of us. And I hope
Sorry, Mr. Combo.
Go ahead.
It's also very, very difficult on teacher morale, and teaching is not an easy profession. And being asked to do so much with so little, and then not to fund it on top of that, everyone here is getting shortchanged.
I was talking to a teacher that I supervised when I was a principal, and she was one of the most highly skilled teachers I have ever worked with in 40 years in education. And she is struggling with the online education. She's not in Lammersville, but I know the quality of teacher expertise in this woman. And if she's struggling, I can just imagine what some other teachers are going through. This is new. This is not intuitive for them. And teachers are stressed. Yeah, and so are the kids. This is harmful to kids.
Unfortunately, teachers are stressed, parents are stressed, students are stressed, district staff is stressed, board members are stressed. It's just, and I agree with Trustee Balzerini. I hope the state can, and I know some of these things may be out of their control, but I hope they can get a handle on it and figure out how to move us forward as expeditiously as possible, because this isn't good.
No.
And I would like to just interpret the barking dog. The dog was reliving a scene from the movie Network, and the dog was saying, "I'm mad as heck, and I'm not going to take it anymore."
That's what I understood as well.
That's exactly what Truffles was saying. You got it.
Does that conclude your superintendent's report, Dr. Nicholas?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, district maintenance and operations report.
It is my proud moment as a district superintendent that I get to present Mr. LeGrand's report this evening. So here it is. The custodial staff has been doing a good job of keeping the sites clean and sanitized. Both the day and evening staff are focused on cleaning all the touch points and restrooms around the campus. Operations staff have been busy the last 2 weeks delivering books and other learning materials to all the sites. They have also been responsible for stocking up the PPE items at all sites as needed. The maintenance staff has been focusing on work orders. On Monday, 8/24, we had our fire inspection at Wickland Elementary School. One issue with the fire sprinkler flow valve in the multipurpose room. Bay Alarm is making the repairs. This afternoon, Thor and Jimmy met with our landscape company to talk about performance concerns. Tomorrow, September 3rd, Turner is making concrete repairs to the pool deck at Mountain House High School. The northwest corner of the deck has cracked around the solar support pole. We are claiming this as a warranty item, and the work should be completed by Tuesday, September 8th. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Go
As far as
ahead.
PPE, do we have adequate supply from the county via the state?
I have been told that we have an ample supply, and that the quality of the supply is good. I am aware that I believe it was the face shields; those had just come in. But for the stuff that we had and the inventory that came in, I was told both good on the quantity and good on the quality.
If
But
could
I will double
piggyback
check.
On Trustee Balzerini's question, do we have sufficient quantity if we were to reopen school?
I will have to get back to you on that. My assumption is when I asked the question, that was the question I was asking. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if my clarity was there. So let me. I know we have a large amount. So and this
Okay.
would be the hybrid opening and then the a total opening as well.
Yeah, I think we would be offering hybrid throughout the year. So, I mean, it's really, the hybrid is the most important question because that would be our first step.
Okay. I will send an email to the board.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on maintenance and operations report?
I did want to just follow up. Do we have like any plastic shields or things in the classrooms for students when they come back?
For the little people, TK through 3,
Yes.
we have dividers that are plastic, see-through plastic dividers. I want to double check that it's 3rd, but I know that we bought a significant amount for the little people. Grades
Okay.
4 and up, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9, action items. Consider approval of 2020-2021 inter and intra-district transfer requests. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Having a first and second, would anyone like to question or comment on the item? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consider approval of second reading of and adoption of updated board policies and administrative regulations. Staff report,
We recommend approval.
questions or comments?
Move to approve second reading and adoption of the updated board policies and administrative regulations as presented.
Second,
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval to adjourn from regular session to open public hearing regarding the 2020-2021 Learning Community and Attendance Plan. Do I have a
I'll move.
motion?
I'll move to adjourn from regular session to open a public hearing regarding the 2020-2021 Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan.
Second,
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
aye.
We are now adjourned to to open public hearing regarding the 2020-2021 Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan.
We are monitoring the vehicle to send in a comment. There are no comments. We'll give it a few more seconds here. There are no comments.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in open session. I'm trying to catch up to where we are. I think we're at item F. Is that correct?
D.
Correct.
Oh, no, wait. Yeah, I'm sorry, never mind.
Item F, consider approval of increasing the paid lunch meal price for 2020-2021. Staff report?
Yeah, this is a recommendation of our food service director, Bernie Hill. It raises the prices as listed here. It aligns with the California Department of Education paid lunch equity management expectations. And she had presented earlier that this was going to be coming, I believe, last spring. And so we recommend going with the increased prices.
Questions or comments by the board on this item?
Move to approve increasing school paid lunch meal price for 2020-21.
I'll second.
Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, I did neglect one thing. This afternoon, a robocall went out to all families. There's new federal dollars for feeding children under the age of 18 community-wide that went out from Director Hill. We will post that information as well on the website, but I neglected to say that in the staff report.
So just for clarity, these, at present, the meals are being provided free of charge. When charging resumes, these prices will go into effect. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so we believe those will go into effect at the end of December. The new prices, when the federal funding runs out.
So they continue the seamless summer program through December?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 10, information and discussion items. First reading of the 2020-2021 Learning Continuity Attendance Plan. Staff report.
I just want to thank Associate Superintendent Harrison, Assistant Superintendent Sherburne, Directors Saylor and Busatil, who helped put this document together. It's a new incarnation of what was the LCAP. It's a mandate under Senate Bill 98, and it's a good plan. And so we look forward to having it come forward for full approval to meet the deadlines and timelines of the state.
I am an education nerd, and I've gone through this thing many, many times with a fine-tooth comb, and it's very well written and comprehensive, and I think it provides all of the information that the CDE is asking for. So yes, I'm proud for us to forward this to the state.
And I would just like to echo Superintendent Nicholas's thanks to all the staff that put in many hours to hone and polish this thing and make it as Trustee Lampel said, a complete and well-written report.
I would echo that, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further discussion or question or comment on this item? Thank you. Moving on to item B, in-person board meetings. I don't know that there's anything new. I think
Sure, there's a new chart that gives us all sorts of good stuff. Years and everything.
I think we're still purple with envy though, so.
Perhaps with anger.
Perhaps. If no one has anything to discuss on this, I will just say that we will continue the course until state guidelines mandate that we change things.
Actually, I do have a comment, Mr. President. In my Zoom, the last Zoom meeting that I had, I forget which county it was. They are doing board meetings and they put plexiglass in between each board member to assist with because they couldn't social distance, so they did the plexiglass in between.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that might be a reasonable solution once we do get back to in-person meetings. It would be a lot simpler and more seamless than spreading people out to the extent that social distancing dictates. Thank you. Further discussion? Moving on to item C, high school summer school report. Staff report?
Principal Faubert, we're going to check the bullpen, and we have sent him a text. So it's possible if we don't connect with Mr. Faubert that we will ask to kick this item into the next board meeting. This was for high school summer school. We were bringing forward for the next meeting the ESY update for that program. So let's, we're going to bring in Mr. Harrison, and then, but I think that if my inkling is that we'll kick the can down the road, but there he is. Associate Superintendent Harrison, we're having trouble connecting with Mr. Faubert, so I don't think that you have all the information from the summer school program, so I'm going to recommend to the board that we do this and the ESY1 at the next board meeting.
Agreed.
All right.
So are you looking for a motion to table, Mr. President?
I'm not sure if we need a motion to table a discussion item, do we?
No.
Okay.
I think we can just move it to the next agenda as a discussion item and leave it at that. I will say that looking at the supporting documents for this item, it seems as though it was a successful summer school program, but I'll leave it at that and we will revisit it at our next meeting.
Okay.
Moving on to item 11, calendar. Wednesday, September 16th is our next regularly scheduled virtual safety committee meeting at 3:30. And that same day at 7 o'clock at night is our next regularly scheduled virtual board meeting. In a moment, we will be adjourning to closed session where we will discuss Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release Complaint, Government Code 54957, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9B, conference with labor negotiators, Government Code Section 54957.6, and conference with real property negotiators, Government Code 54956.8. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to adjourn to closed session.
I'll second.
Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 We're now adjourned to closed session and we will take a short 5 minutes or less recess and continue with closed session.